She was hidden in plain sight. Discover how jealousy exposed the incredible truth about her. Sarah felt the weight of unshed ambitions in every coffee cup she poured, a steady rhythm that matched the beating heart of Milltown. The local diner buzzed around her, every table a microcosm of lives intertwined, each person unaware of the artist hidden beneath the apron. With a warm smile plastered on her face, she served plates of crispy bacon and eggs, her mind often drifting to the vibrant sketches she tucked away in a corner of their cramped apartment. The sacrifices she made felt heavy on her shoulders. Her own dreams fled, replaced by the relentless fire of her daughter Emily's aspirations. Emily was brilliant, an artist with a future that sparkled like freshly glimmering paint. The thought of Emily getting into art school fueled Sarah to wake up each day and slip comfortably back into a life that didn't include her. But as the waitress wiped down tables, she couldn't shake an unsettling feeling. What if her talent was equally deserving? A flicker of fear stitched itself into her heart. What if she had denied herself too long? The woman who once dreamed of illustrating children's books now shut the door to that fantasy, fearing the art world would cast her aside like yesterday's leftovers. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With that flicker of hope, so too came the flicker of jealousy from the outside world. Emily was quickly gathering accolades, recognition turning heads in their tight-knit community. But with admiration came envious whispers, particularly from Vanessa, who once wrote off Sarah's sketches as mere daydreams. Vanessa, now fixated on Emily, seethed like a storm cloud. The tension turned palpable whenever they crossed paths. The fear throbbed inside Sarah. Would she lose her daughter to the very world she had sacrificed for? The upcoming art exhibit felt like a countdown to a bomb. Emily's portfolio sparkled while Sarah's confidence dwindled, every passing day turning the sacred canvas of their relationship into a brittle glass. Emily would present her work, and Sarah found herself grappling with the moral quagmire of supporting her daughter against a woman who had once deemed her invisible. The pressure coiled in her gut like a tightened spring. In the silence of their sleepless nights, Sarah's entrapment whispered louder. Each night, the walls of their small apartment sighed with the bitterness of unfulfilled potential. She had been a spectator too long. But what if she revealed herself now? The idea ignited a storm of anxiety. Would they crush her dreams again? A note slid under the door late one night, its simple message lighting a fragile spark of rebellion inside her. Don't let the envy of others bury your dreams. You deserve to shine. Who sent it? Friends? Foes? Hope or a threat? As the walls around her tightened, Sarah stood at the edge of a precipice, the choice looming like an unanswered prayer. Would she finally step into the light, or would she remain hidden, ever shadowed by someone else's jealousy, dragging Emily along with her? The day of the exhibit dawned, casting an unusual light through the diner window. Sunbeams pierced the early morning haze, illuminating the grease-smeared countertops and the faces of regular patrons. Yet for Sarah, the brightness did not lighten her heart. Instead, it compounded her anxiety. Today was more than just another day. It tested the very fabric of her self-worth. As she filled coffee cups, Sarah's mind spiraled through a myriad of what-ifs. What if Emily's success triggered her own silence? What if she lost her daughter to the very dreams she had nurtured? As she placed down a steaming mug at a booth, a familiar pang of envy twisted in her gut. She could feel Vanessa's critical gaze, even though she wasn't there. Thanks to her presence, looming like a specter, Sarah's confidence wavered. The rush of serving customers veiled her internal chaos, but no amount of caffeine could drown the doubts swirling within. During lunch, as the diner buzzed with chatter, Sarah had a rare moment of respite. She slipped into a booth alone, fingers tracing the outline of her notebook nestled in her bag. It had been months since she had dared to sketch anything outside the confines of her imagination. The small, crumpled sketches symbolized years of frustration and longing. She could envision their delicate lines and vibrant colors, a world locked within those pages, begging to break free. Her heart raced as she considered the note that had slipped under her door. Was it possible to shed the bonds of doubt? That note had instigated a series of questions she couldn't ignore. Sarah envisioned the dream of illustrating children's books she had abandoned. Why was attending Emily's exhibit as her only option for pride and fulfillment? With a sudden rush of determination that took her breath away, Sarah returned home after her shift. The shadows loomed, thickening with the creeping bouquet of unease. She threw herself onto her bed, papers spilling all around her, the sketches coming to life like a vivid storm. This was the moment, a declaration against her repressed desires. Her pencil began to glide across the page, and soon, characters and narrative arcs unfolded before her eyes. They were vibrant, alive, the children she had once envisioned reading her stories. Hours melted away, and she soon lost track of time. For the first time in years, she didn't feel hidden, she felt exposed in the best way. As the hours passed, it dawned upon her that the comparisons to Emily's success, the jealousy thrown her way, no longer held the same power. Instead of competing, she could carve a space alongside her daughter. But what if Emily resented that? What if stepping into the light disrupted the fragile balance of their relationship? Her frayed nerves danced with possibility as she turned the last page of her latest creation. The feelings were exhilarating yet terrifying. She had taken an audacious step from the shadows and found her voice, however tentative. But just as anticipation filled her chest, the thought of sharing it loomed ominously. Would anyone welcome an artist who had been absent for so long, especially when the art world was now filled with competitors? She wanted to discuss her work with Emily, but how would her daughter react to having her once hidden dreams paraded next to her fresh success in front of everyone? As Sarah gathered the sketches to show the world, a knock interrupted her frantic thoughts. It came from Emily, cheerful yet oblivious to the emotional tempest inside Sarah. "Mom. Are you ready for the exhibit? You'll love what they're saying about my work." The thrill in Emily's voice ignited the embers of both pride and dread in Sarah. It would be easy to suppress her own revelations and ride the coattails of Emily's achievements. But was that truly what she desired? The door creaked open slowly, a gateway not just to their small space but also to newfound realities. How would Sarah balance being both an artist and a mother in the face of rising tensions? The moment of truth was approaching, and the time had come for internal confrontations. Would she step forward, or would fear dictate how she would navigate this turning point? With a deep breath, Sarah opened the door, the hinges creaking like skeletal whisperings in the silence of her doubts. Emily stood there, a rush of enthusiasm radiating from her, blurring the line between mother and daughter in this moment of vulnerability and raw ambition. "Mom. Did you hear what Mrs. Grant said about my work? She wants to feature it at the City Gallery." Her excitement was infectious, yet Sarah felt a sinking weight in her stomach. Instead of celebrating Emily's achievement, she wrestled with the notion of being a mere audience member, trapped behind the invisible wall of her hesitance. "That's amazing, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her voice unexpectedly distant. She forced a smile that felt foreign, a fragile mask over her unrest. Emily's eyes sparkled with the light of accomplishment, yet they seemed oblivious to the chaos swirling beneath the surface. "Are you excited to see my exhibit?" Emily asked, hopeful innocence coloring her tone. The question cut deeper. Her daughter was reaching for connection, and the pressure enveloped Sarah like a heavy cloak. Would her presence represent support or resentment? In that split second, she imagined stripping away her fear, taking the plunge into her own artistic aspirations. But the thought of undermining Emily's moment felt like betrayal, a shadow flickering in the corners of her creativity. "Yes, I think I will," Sarah replied, the words escaping as both a promise and a fear. As they walked together to the exhibit, the streets pulsed with life, a sharp contrast to the silence coiling around Sarah's thoughts. The chatter of the crowd intensified her anxiety. Each step felt weighted with self-doubt, every laugh and cheer heightening her insecurities. What if her work paled in comparison? What if her voice faded into the background like an unanswered question? Being at the exhibit meant exposure. She had to show her vulnerabilities not only as an artist but as a mother. Would sharing her art jeopardize the delicate balance of admiration and envy that coursed through their relationship? Once inside, accolades and admiration buzzed like electricity. Emily's artwork gleamed under the soft gallery lights, surrounded by praise. Everyone seemed captivated, yet Sarah's heart thudded ominously, a steady reminder of her own hesitations. Her sketches tugged at her consciousness, leading her to the edge of decision. Through the swirling masses, their eyes met across the gallery. Emily studied her mother, searching for acknowledgement, for pride, for something beyond the expectant mother's smile plastered on her face. Sarah's stomach tightened, a cocktail of fear and longing swirling within her. The impulse to retreat was strong, the sanctuary of silence beckoned. But standing in that moment of choice, she confronted the truth. Her joy externalized through Emily only magnified the yearning deep inside. Could she allow her own creations to share the same space without feeling diminished? Suddenly, her resolve crystallized. She would not sacrifice one dream for the other. Even if her work faded against Emily's shine, it would not erase the years of her dedication. Fighting against her fears, Sarah took a step toward the center of the gallery, her heart racing. "Emily," she called, each syllable carrying the weight of years lost. The crowd shifted, curiosity brewing as eyes turned toward them. The moment hung in the air, her voice, once timid and hesitant, now bold and clear. She was ready to be seen. But just as Emily turned, a sharp gasp penetrated the moment. Mrs. Grant approached them, a delighted gleam in her eyes, oblivious to the shifting energies. "Emily, your work is phenomenal. I want to speak to you about a potential collaboration." The interruption sliced through Sarah's declaration, uncertainty creeping back as she watched Emily bask in the spotlight. Would she be swallowed whole again, stranded as the supportive mother while denying her own artistry? Desperation tinged with determination coursed through Sarah. The next steps would require a bold confrontation, not just with her daughter but with the very labels she had worn for too long. The tension crackled as new possibilities laid before her, daunting yet essential. As Emily slipped away to navigate the praises, Sarah clutched onto her sketches, her unfinished stories clinging to her like a lifeline. This gallery wasn't just about Emily, it was the birthplace of her rebirth. Now the stakes had changed. Would she reclaim her voice amidst a chorus of admiration, or retreat back into the shadows of expectation? The final confrontation loomed on the horizon, and the battle for her identity was just beginning. As the applause swelled around Emily like an ocean tide, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. The gallery buzzed with a life of its own, yet she remained in her own mental fog, isolated in the midst of the crowd. She strained to comprehend the whirlwind of emotions roiling within her as she watched her daughter embrace the accolades she had long yearned for herself. Every compliment directed at Emily stung like hot needles. Each brilliant and stunning seemed to carve deeper channels of self-doubt into Sarah's psyche. The hurt was almost palpable, like sharp glass sliding beneath her skin. How was it fair that Emily, so young, was stepping into her brilliance while she lingered in the shadows? In a moment of clarity, Sarah glanced down at her sketches, lines and words interwoven with remnants of her dreams. They represented an aspiring artist's silent scream, brimming with unspent potential. But at that moment, they felt like burdens. Could they ever match Emily's light? Fueled by a flicker of courage, she stepped back into the fray, pushing past the crowd, her heart drumming in rhythm with the swirling emotions. She had spent years cocooned in the safety of quiet creativity, but this was her call to action. Each brushstroke, each unfulfilled endeavor beckoned her to confront not only her fears of inadequacy but also the guilt of pursuing her own ambitions while Emily soared. "Mom, do you want to take a picture with me?" Emily called from across the room, a sparkle in her eyes igniting something dormant in Sarah. There it was, a bridge between them, a thread of connection. It might have felt like a daunting chasm, but it was also an invitation. "Of course, sweetheart." Sarah's voice emerged with surprising conviction. She crossed the space separating them, resolving to place her insecurities aside, even if only momentarily. As they posed together, arms linked, the camera clicked. Their smiles, albeit a mixture of joy and apprehension, captured a moment caught in the delicate balance of pride and jealousy. But even as the flash illuminated their faces, Sarah felt a flicker of discontent settle in her chest. Was this who she wanted to be? A mere spectator in her own narrative? The lingering question pestered her relentlessly. What was it going to take for her to ignite the spark that had long been dulled by her self-imposed constraints? After the photo op, Sarah approached Emily, who was now deep in conversation with Mrs. Grant. The dynamic between the two felt electric, yet Sarah hung back, grappling with her next move. Here laid an opportunity to loosen the grip of her own fears and embrace vulnerability. Summoning courage, she took a deep breath, drawn not just by duty as a mother, but by an enduring need to express her truth. "Emily, can I talk to you for a second?" Her voice trembled slightly, shimmering with unnumbered emotions, but there was intent behind it. Emily turned, surprise flickering across her face. "Sure, Mom. Is everything okay?" The concern in her daughter's wide eyes spurred a rush of determination through Sarah. I wanted to talk about art, about the exhibit and what it means for both of us." "Okay," Emily replied, tilting her head curiously as they edged away from the crowd. Each step felt monumental, heavy with implications. They paused under a dimly lit corner, a few feet away from the admiring guests. "Your work is stunning, really," Sarah began, knowing she had to acknowledge Emily's success first. "But I want you to understand something. As much as I'm proud of you, I can't ignore the fear I've carried about my own creativity." The unveiling was a bold yet terrifying step. It was one thing to recognize her daughter's achievements, it was another to lay her vulnerabilities bare before her. Emily's brow furrowed slightly, an expression of concern merging with intrigue. "Mom, you've always been my inspiration. Why haven't you shared your art? You're talented." There it was, a tipping point. The moment of confrontation brewed between them, unearthing deep-seated fears and aspirations. Sarah's heart raced. She felt a thrilling shift welling up, one that could alter everything. "Because I've spent so long letting the idea of being just your mom define me that I forgot who I was as an artist." Emily's eyes widened, a dawning realization deepening the connection between mother and daughter. "But we can share our art together. You don't have to be just my mom at this gallery. You can be an artist." Sarah watched her daughter, light illuminating the edges of their budding shared dreams, and her breath caught in her throat. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something monumental. But as the reassurance washed over her, doubt bled into her thoughts, a creeping whisper insisting that stepping forward would destabilize their dynamic. Would Emily cast her shadow on her own artistry? The tension shifted palpably as they both stood on the precipice of a defining moment. The path forward demanded vulnerability, but who would they be on the other side? "Mom, please don't hide anymore," Emily urged, her expression earnest, relentless. "It's time." The race against self-doubt began. Would Sarah find the strength to stand beside her daughter, not only as a supporter but as herself? In that suspended moment, the question loomed larger than life, tethered to promises both spoken and unspoken, whispering the urgency of her next steps. Uncertainty enveloped Sarah as she attempted to reconcile the whirlwind of expectations surrounding her. The soft hum of the gallery faded into the background as her thoughts spiraled into a tempest. She could feel the weight of Emily's stare, both soothing and disconcerting. Navigating the delicate balance between motherly pride and her burgeoning desire for artistic recognition felt insurmountable. "I just don't want to overshadow you," Sarah managed to voice, her throat tightening as the words tumbled out. Emily shook her head, dismissing the notion. "Mom, you're not overshadowing anyone. Your art is your voice, just like mine is mine. We can exist together in this space." It was a concept so foreign yet so appealing that Sarah felt a flutter of hope intertwined with anxiety. Her life had been molded around Emily's needs, and for the first time, she dared to envision an existence where both of their voices could coexist. But how could she turn that vision into reality? Determined to explore this newfound possibility, Sarah declared, "Maybe I should show you my sketches. I've done some things I've never shared with anyone." Emily's eyes sparkled. "You should. I want to see what you've been hiding." That word hiding. It echoed through Sarah like an accusation, awakening buried emotions she had long kept in check. The conversation marked a turning point, but as they retreated from the crowd, Sarah was aware of the many faces that had praised Emily but had never seen her own work. The weight of their expectations settled heavily on her shoulders. What if her art didn't resonate? What if Emily's radiance eclipsed her own, creating a comparison that would only lead to resentment? Let us find a quiet place, Emily suggested, lethal in her clarity. They moved towards a cozy nook framed by vibrant tapestries and dim light, an enclave that felt sacred, safe for this exchange between them. As Sarah pulled out a portfolio, her heart raced. She laid it down, opening the pages to reveal her sketches filled with whispered dreams, fears, and hopes. The first piece was raw, a self-portrait that had captured years of quiet struggles against the canvas. Emily leaned in, gasping softly. "Wow, Mom. This is beautiful." The simplest of compliments ignited a warmth that spread through Sarah's entire being. "Really? You think so?" "Absolutely." Emily traced the curves of the lines with her fingertip, absorbing the emotion embedded in every stroke, every intention. "Why did you stop?" "This reflects who you are." And there it was, the challenge she had craved masked beneath a wave of vulnerability. "I thought being a mother was all I needed to be. I wanted to prioritize your dreams." Emily met her gaze with fervor. "But what are your dreams?" "I don't want you to be just my mom. I want you to thrive, too." That statement hung in the air, a thread binding them into a shared fate. Sarah's heart swelled with an unfamiliar but welcome determination. "It's just scary, Emily. Stepping back into the art world feels like jumping from a cliff." "What if I fail? What if you fly?" Emily countered, her voice unwavering. Sarah found herself contemplating that very possibility, one that seemed both monumental and terrifying. A spark of ambition ignited inside her. It wasn't just about fear anymore, it was about redefining who she was, emerging from the cocoon of her own design. Perhaps those sketches, long buried under years of complacency, were more than a choice to hide, they were a map leading her back to herself. "I want to showcase a piece at the next exhibit," Sarah finally declared, her voice gaining strength. The words felt radical but also liberating, shedding layers of doubt with each syllable. Emily's face lit up. "Then let us do this together. I'll help you set it up." But as Sarah felt the pull of anticipation, a new voice, smaller yet insistent, whispered lingering fears of rejection, of exposure. Would her creativity mirror the sublime expressions that emerged from Emily's work, or would it falter, revealing a truth she had avoided for far too long? Determined to face her insecurities head-on, Sarah felt the threshold to a new phase of her life approach. What began as a desire to amplify her voice now transformed into a quest for authenticity, a journey to the core of who she was becoming. As they embraced the chaotic beauty of motherhood and artistic ambition, she understood that this leap would inevitably lead to personal transformation. But she couldn't shake the sense of impending conflict. How would the world, and more importantly, her daughter's expectations, shape her journey? In that quiet corner of the gallery, Sarah faced a decision that would either solidify their bond or challenge everything she thought she knew. With Emily by her side, she braced for the inevitable storms ahead, knowing that in this personal unveiling, her identity would collide with the risings of both pride and jealousy. "Are you ready for this?" Emily asked, a gentle yet resolute challenge in her voice. With her heart thrumming a rhythm of newfound resolve, Sarah nodded, feeling the burgeoning sense of purpose intensify. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let us go." But doubt lingered in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Would courage hold firm when faced with larger-than-life horizons, or would the weight of fear anchor her once more? The brisk air outside the gallery seemed to carry an electric charge, heightening Sarah's pulse as she stepped out alongside Emily. The anticipation of showcasing her art blended with an undercurrent of anxiety that threatened to undo her resolve. Each footfall on the pavement felt heavier, as if she was marching toward an uncharted territory filled with the potential for both exhilaration and despair. "How do you feel?" Emily asked, breaking the silence that lingered between them. Excited and terrified, Sarah admitted. Her voice caught in her throat. It was difficult to separate the two emotions that coiled around each other like serpents. Would this be a moment of revelation, or would she find herself swallowed whole by her own fears? Emily nodded, her enthusiasm unwavering. "We'll make it work. You've got this, Mom." Yet, in that affirmation, Sarah sensed an unspoken pressure. The implicit expectation of success hovered like a heavy cloud. She wanted more than anything to meet Emily's hopes, but self-doubt nagged at her like a constant itch. What if this was a misstep? Days slipped by in a blur of preparations and conversations, each detail pulling her deeper into a reality she hadn't inhabited in years. The sketches she had once hidden felt both like a safety net and a precarious cliff. They were familiar yet terrifying reminders of the talent she had long neglected. Late nights were consumed by her attempts to refine her art, to transform those rough edges into something polished. The very essence of her soul poured onto the canvas. As she painted, both fear and determination fueled her brushstrokes. Each stroke felt like a declaration, "I am here." Yet, as colors blended and transformed, the question lingered, what if it wasn't enough? Lying awake at night, her mind raced with comparisons to Emily's work, a slick, innovative style that seemed to effortlessly capture the contemporary essence. It was a setup for a showdown she couldn't ignore. Emily's success reverberated through the art community, expectations rode high, and Sarah's own narrative was steeped in the shadows of her daughter's light. On a particularly restless evening, Sarah sat surrounded by a tempest of thoughts. The ticking clock echoed, amplifying her insecurities. Could she shed her fears and embrace this long-denied dream? As she stared at her half-finished piece, a vibrant exploration of light and dark and unexpected clarity emerged. Art wasn't merely recognition, it was expression, a visceral outpouring of one's truth. With that epiphany, she picked up her brush, painting over her initial doubts with bold swaths of color. She poured herself into the piece, weaving in layers that told a story she had kept tightly bound within. But as she stood back to survey her progress, the lingering doubt morphed into a different form, fear of inadequacy. Would this piece stand up to scrutiny? The weight of Emily's expectations loomed large, and the fear that comparison might sever their connection loomed as a shadow upon her newfound sense of purpose. "Are you going to let her see it before the big day?" Emily's voice brought her back from the precipice of her thoughts. "I don't know," Sarah confessed, hesitant. What if Emily's brilliance eclipsed her own? What if the criticism, if it came, was too much to bear? Beneath the weight of uncertainty, she questioned whether she could truly embrace her own artistic identity. "It's part of the process," Emily reminded her gently. "You have to let go of that fear." But deep down, Sarah grappled with a darker realization. The unrelenting need for validation was perhaps the very thing she needed to confront. Did she want to be seen, or did she want to shine for herself? As the date of the exhibit approached, Sarah became acutely aware of the impending moment when her art would stand side by side with Emily's success. Both exhilarating and terrifying, the experience represented a definitive turning point, and self-protection began to feel like stifling her voice. At the edge of this unfolding narrative, she faced a choice: to remain hidden, slipping back into familiar roles that kept her safe, or to combat her fears and take a bold step into the light. Every brushstroke led her closer to the impending exhibit, but each decision loomed large. Would courage prove resilient enough to brave the scrutiny and backlash that might follow when she put her art on display? As the clock ticked down toward the opening, Sarah remained suspended in a moment riddled with tension, waiting for the opportunity to confront not only the art world but also herself. In the depths of her thoughts, she realized that the true conflict lay not outside of her, but rather within. Would she rise to the occasion, fully revealing herself, or would the shadows of self-doubt drag her back into obscurity? The question remained, sharpening the looming tension that promised to redefine her relationship with Emily, her art, and ultimately herself. As the day of the exhibit finally arrived, Sarah found herself engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions. Each breath felt heavy with anticipation, a tangible blend of excitement, dread, and resolve swirling within her. Dressed in a simple yet elegant blouse that carried a few brushstrokes from the night before, she studied her reflection in the mirror. There was a fierce resolve hiding under the layers of fear that threatened to consume her. Today was not just about showcasing her art, it was a crucial step in reclaiming her identity. Driving to the gallery, the streets transformed into a blur, her mind racing with thoughts of validation and doubt. Each approaching traffic light seemed to echo her hesitations. Green lights flew by with a promise of progress, while red lights felt like inevitable stops along her journey to self-acceptance. Would she finally let her voice be heard, or would she retreat, finding solace in the shadow of her daughter's brilliance? Arriving at the gallery, the moment felt surreal. The building stood tall, gleaming under a sky that boasted the perfect twilight. As she entered, Sarah was greeted by the buzz of conversations and the excited chatter of attendees, a crowd she had long craved yet feared. The gallery's walls loomed like mirrors reflecting not just artwork but also her insecurities. Emily's section, vibrant and imbued with contemporary flair, drew admirers like moths to a flame. Sarah watched, a knot tightening in her stomach. Every compliment hurled Emily's way felt like a dagger to her heart. Would anyone notice her? Would her work get lost in the cacophony of praise cascading around her daughter? Taking a deep breath, Sarah skirted through the room, allowing herself to observe without judgment. As she approached her own collection, she was struck by how different her pieces felt in this environment. They were alive, expressing truths that were raw and unfiltered, unlike the polished perfection of Emily's work. These were the reflections of herself, the layers of doubt, love, pain, and resilience. A wave of admiration crashed over her as she studied her painting titled Resurgence. It held a story that transcended simple interpretation. Rich browns and golds swirled into a chaos that froze moments of unguarded vulnerability. It signified her rebirth, a reminder that every artist embodies their journeys in strokes and colors. Yet, as she stood in front of it, a whisper of discontent echoed. Could it measure up? "Mom, you ready?" Emily's voice cut through her reverie, a support she desperately needed but simultaneously resented. It served as a reminder of every nagging expectation clinging to her. "I think so." Sarah's voice faltered, tinged with uncertainty. She felt the familiar swell of jealousy gnawing at her resolve. "Come on. Let us show them what you've got." Emily's grin was a mixture of pride and urgency, pushing Sarah forward, a mover in her own narrative. As they walked side by side, Sarah silently confronted her conflict, grappling with the fear of judgment and the desire to express herself authentically. Just as they approached the opening of the gallery, Sarah caught a glimpse of familiar faces, friends, former colleagues, even strangers whose opinions she once valued. Each presence amplified her self-consciousness, unraveling a variety of fears. Should she exhibit the courage to unveil her painting or pilot her confidence into retreat? Caught in this crossroads of vulnerability, Sarah realized she was standing on the precipice of a decision that could redefine not just her journey as an artist, but also her role within her daughter's achievements. As they arrived to introduce her work to a small gathering, she felt that familiar tension rise within her. Would she allow herself this moment of emergence? The air thickened, almost palpable, as anticipation crackled around her. Taking one last glance at Emily, Sarah could see the genuine eagerness reflected in her eyes, the same eyes that once looked up to her for guidance, now seeking validation in her own right. Suddenly, a realization dawned that overshadowed her trepidation. Perhaps the only one holding her back was herself. The moment had arrived. Would she rise to seize it, or would she fade into the background once again? With a determined breath, she stepped forward into the spotlight, ready to confront more than just an audience, but the woman she longed to be. Little did she know that her first words would be a revelation, not just for her audience, but for Emily as well. As she opened her mouth to speak, the air shifted, and Sarah felt something deep within her inch closer to the surface. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Sarah began, her voice steadying with each word as she fought back the cascade of emotions swirling in her chest. The crowd turned slightly, their gazes shifting away from Emily's exhibition to focus on her, a mix of curiosity and interest igniting in their faces. For the first time, she perceived a fragile flicker of appreciation reflected back at her. With each statement she shared about her art, her confidence began to unfurl like the petals of a flower revealing its beauty after a long winter. This piece, Resurgence, is not just a collection of colors on a canvas," she articulated, gesturing toward her painting. "It's a mirror reflecting the struggles we all face, the chaos of our experiences, the pain and joy entwined." Sarah felt the air pulsate with resonance, the audience's collective breath held as they embraced her vulnerability. As she continued speaking, her voice became a vessel for her emotions. She spoke not only of the art but of the journey she had undertaken over the years, a journey shadowed by self-doubt, driven by an incessant need to prove herself. "There was a time when I believed my worth was measured against someone else's achievements," she revealed, glancing at Emily, who stood rapt with admiration. "But I've come to realize that every stroke on this canvas, every flaw and imperfection, represents my unique perspective, a testament to my growth." Each word carved a path through her insecurities, shattering the walls she had built around herself. As she articulated her truth, she caught sight of Emily's pride transforming into something deeper, a glimmer of understanding mingled with recognition. Could it be that Emily too had wrestled with these feelings in her own artistic pursuits? A hush fell over the crowd as she reached the crux of her revelation. In art and in life, we can either let jealousy and doubt consume us, or we can transform those feelings into something beautiful, something that uplifts, inspires, and connects us. The applause erupted like fireworks, vibrant and alive. But beyond the sound, Sarah felt a compelling shift within herself, a personal breakthrough intertwined with the acceptance she so desperately sought. It dawned on her that she was finally emerging from the shadows. This moment wasn't solely about validation, it was about connection, a collective embrace of their shared vulnerabilities. Yet, amid the applause, a flutter of anxiety swirled inside her. She was stepping out, but there still lingered the fear of the consequences. What if this acceptance fractured her relationship with Emily, who had always been her anchor? What would happen when the spotlight shifted back to Emily, the prodigious talent? As the evening unfolded, conversations and critiques began to swirl around her, but Sarah felt a nagging dissonance fluttering in her mind. She wandered from group to group, engaged yet distracted. The celebratory atmosphere at the gallery was intoxicating, however, a quiet voice tugged at her, prompting an internal dialogue. She was just beginning to feel whole, yet she sensed the need for more. What lay ahead? Would she be able to sustain her newfound confidence, or would the familiar shadows of inadequacy creep back in? Lost in thought, she looked over to Emily again, who was now gathering her admirers, gracing them with smiles and laughter. In that moment, a question unfurled within her: what other discoveries awaited her on this journey of self-acceptance, and how might they redefine not only her artistry but also her relationship with her daughter? Unease danced within her. How could she ensure that the growth she had sparked wouldn't obscure Emily's light? Suddenly, the air tingled with a new possibility and emerging clarity that something extraordinary was about to fracture the very foundation of their dual artistic journeys. Sarah anticipated the pathway ahead with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation, knowing it would lead her to confront emotions she had long buried. But was she ready for the revelations that would await her? As she cautiously approached Emily, she felt the weight of her own ambitions and fears, the tightrope they both walked. Would they collapse under underlying tensions or create a bridge of understanding between them? The moment loomed, heavy with potential. As Sarah moved closer to the vibrant cluster of observers encircling Emily, the cacophony of laughter and enthusiasm felt both exhilarating and suffocating. A veil of uncertainty hung between them, a line extending between mother and daughter that Sarah had never anticipated would fray. Every step toward Emily was heavy with duality, an urge to support her daughter while questioning what her own growth would mean for their dynamic. Emily's laughter rang out, an infectious sound that reminded Sarah of the little girl who used to paint on her bedroom walls with the same fervor she now displayed at the gallery. Pride surged in her chest, mingling with self-doubt. How was she supposed to embody both encouragement and ambition? The tender balance between mother and artist suddenly felt precarious. "You were amazing, Mom." Emily beamed, her eyes sparkling with delight as Sarah finally reached her side. Each word from Emily was a warm embrace, wrapping around the fragments of Sarah's vulnerability. Yet, a whisper of anxiety lingered in her mind. But am I enough? The crowd continued to praise Emily's work, flooding her with compliments. Each accolade felt like a reminder of the artistic prowess she had always revered in her, a quality that now both illuminated and shadowed Sarah's journey. She wrestled with the lingering question, would Emily be able to appreciate her own achievements alongside Sarah's recent revelation, or would jealousy seep into their bond like an unwelcome guest? "Thank you," Sarah replied, mustering a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The truth was more complex than any singular moment could encompass. Beneath the surface of celebration lay a growing fissure within her. The accolades she had long craved, the validation of her own artistic voice, were perilously close to straining the foundation of their relationship. She couldn't help but feel the weight of the past, all the years spent functioning in Emily's shadow, struggling to assert her artistic identity while raising a daughter who was both her muse and her mirror, reflecting her inadequacies. Suddenly, a familiar figure stepped into view: Jim, a former colleague and a critical voice from her past. Their eyes locked, and Sarah's stomach flipped with a familiar sense of dread. He had always been the critic who pointed out her flaws, never hesitating to diminish her passion for art. Just seeing him unleashed a torrent of self-reflection and doubt, and she wondered if she was ready to face his inevitable critique of her work. "What a surprise!" Jim exclaimed, a facade of congeniality plastered across his face. "You've finally stepped out of the shadows, I see." His words sliced through the moment like a sharp knife, dredging up insecurities she had fought hard to overcome. Did he truly recognize her journey, or was it veiled sarcasm? The tension filled the air, palpable and thick as she noted Emily's expression shift, confusion knitted into her brow. "Yeah," Sarah replied, forcing confidence into her voice despite the unease fluttering in her chest. "It's taken a while, but I think I'm finally starting to embrace my own artistry." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Emily's face, and Sarah felt her heart drop. In that instant, the balance shifted, her fear of eclipsing Emily shifted into a determination to redefine the narrative. This was a moment to reclaim her voice not just for herself, but as a demonstration of what it meant to evolve in pursuit of passion. She didn't want her daughter to struggle silently the way she had. "We all deserve a chance to shine," she thought, her determination hardening. Jim leaned in closer, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Well, let's see how you can hold your ground in this industry. It might be tougher than you think." As she held his gaze, a rush of resolve washed over her. Would she allow his words to wrap around her like chains, or would she choose to break free? The answer was becoming clearer: she would not give away her power. Her journey was marked by rebirth, not patterning after anyone else. Emily's eyes lingered on her mother, searching for assurance in a moment heavy with unspoken truths. Sarah could feel the weight of that look, the understanding that hung between them, binding their journeys. The night had morphed into more than just an exhibition, it had become a pivotal crossroads. "Mom?" Emily finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper, profound in its simplicity. "Yeah? I think we need to talk about us," she said, hesitation steeping her tone. As Sarah's heart raced, she realized they were both ready to confront what had long remained unsaid. But with that revelation came an unsettling question: would this conversation stitch together their bond or unravel it entirely? The moment of truth was approaching, laden with fear and hope. As the reality of their conversation settled around them, Sarah felt a surge of courage. The visual noise of the gallery faded, leaving only the crucial heartbeat of a mother-daughter connection hanging in the air. Both aware of the challenges that lay ahead, the choice was obvious: they could either allow past tensions to fracture their bond or embrace this pivotal moment together. "Let us talk," Sarah said, her voice steadying. They moved away from the crowd, seeking the shelter of a quieter corner. Here, the murmur of the gallery felt distant, allowing for raw honesty to permeate their conversation. "Mom, I've been thinking," Emily began, her gaze serious yet tender, "about how we've both navigated this world. I love you and I admire your work, but I don't want your dreams to get lost because of me or what you think I need." That heartfelt admission reverberated in Sarah's chest. She had feared that her artistic journey would overshadow Emily's success. The revelation struck her. Emily, too, carried a weight of expectation that contrasted sharply with the genuine bond they shared. "I thought supporting you meant losing myself," Sarah responded, her heart racing. "And I thought it would hurt you if I dared to pursue my art while you were thriving." But look at us. Look at what we've both accomplished. Emily's expression shifted, reflecting awareness and relief. But Mom, we can be artists together. Your talent deserves just as much recognition as mine does. We shouldn't need to hide from one another. The vulnerability exchanged between them transformed the space, filling it with potential a mutual acknowledgement that their artistic journeys could not only coexist but also enrich one another's experiences. In that moment, Sarah understood that she could be both an artist and a mother without compromising her identity. Yes. I've allowed my insecurities to keep me folding in on myself while you've been pushing through, she said breathlessly, the wave of clarity crashing over her. Let us not compete. Let us lift each other up. With that promise, the air between them lightened. Emily nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. It's terrifying to put ourselves out there, but I want us to embrace it together. We should show the world our art without the burden of comparison. Sarah smiled genuinely for the first time that evening. The warmth radiating between them felt electric. You're right. Art links us, and it can't be diminished by titles or judgments. We'll show them our stories. As they continued to share their thoughts, the mingled colors of their respective artistic journeys flashed vividly in Sarah's mind. No longer was it a matter of overshadowing, but rather a collaboration where both could rise, illuminating the path of growth. Can I show you my piece? Sarah suggested, feeling the spark of excitement rush through her. Absolutely. Emily replied, her enthusiasm infectious. As they moved back toward her works, Sarah felt gratitude swell within her. She had not only rediscovered her artistic voice but she was also bridging the gaps created by fear and jealousy. We're transforming together, she thought, her heart buoyed by a sense of solidarity. Standing proudly beside her piece, Sarah took a deep breath, preparing to share the feelings encapsulated within her art. She explained her work's narrative, how it mirrored her journey towards self-acceptance. As she spoke to Emily, a sense of shared understanding grew between them, an intimacy that transcended mere admiration, rooted in experience. Emily looked at her mother, eyes sparkling with admiration. Mom, I'm so proud of you. Your development as an artist reflects your incredible heart. With renewed conviction, Sarah allowed herself to believe that her dreams were valid. They weren't merely shadows cast by Emily's brilliance, but vibrant strokes in a shared tapestry of life. As guests began to converge once more for the final cheers of the night, Sarah felt a new sense of clarity. She stepped into the spotlight confidently, knowing she had conquered not only fears but had emerged alongside her daughter as two distinct yet interconnected figures in their artistic landscape. There is room for both of us, she quietly affirmed to herself. The applause raining down was no longer a reminder of insecurity, it was an anthem of self-acceptance and recognition for both of their artistic journeys. At that moment, Sarah stood not as a backdrop but as an equal partner alongside Emily in the narrative of creativity. With warmth in her chest, she turned to her daughter and smiled. They were ready to embrace whatever awaited them on this exciting path ahead, united in their artistic exploration. Let us take this journey together, Sarah declared, embodying a newfound strength. Together, Emily echoed, the two artists locked in a dynamic dance of ambition and love, ready to inspire the world with their respective stories. As they shared this pivotal moment, Sarah realized that not only had she emerged from her self-imposed shadows, but she had also paved a path for Emily to thrive in her artistic endeavors. Through mutual support and shared creativity, they had both achieved monumental transformations, a testament to the power of understanding, love, and the undeniable strength that comes from standing proudly in one's own light. Their achievements reflected not just their journeys differently colored by experience, but a promise to never shy away from the expansive canvases they would create together. In that realm, personal fulfillment blossomed like a full spectrum of color across their artwork, and their bond brighter and more vivid than either had ever imagined possible. The ending was not just an epilogue, it was a new beginning, infused with hope and unwavering solidarity. Now, as a final call to action, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that could resonate with your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, proving that personal overcoming narratives matter. Comment your reactions and theories about this empowering ending. Your thoughts deserve to be heard. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the message of hope and connection together. Don't wait even one more second to engage with this powerful community. Your journey matters.